The landscape of money in our country is about to completely change in just a few weeks. We knew it was going to happen sooner or later, but who knew that they would push it out this soon? The Fed is now going to be piloting this digital dollar. Are you ready to have every cent that you've ever made be audited by the IRS's 87,000 armed agents? Also, the holidays may not be as festive for American households, as data suggests that more people continue to borrow on their credit cards than ever before. Is this the worst time to build debt as interest rates peak? Welcome back to today's video, folks, and for your daily dose of the truth when it comes to our economy, the stock market, global happenings, and so much more, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Also, make sure your notification bell is turned on. Dropping a like really helps support the channel. We appreciate that. Also, we always appreciate you sharing our videos with everyone that you care about. All right, guys, but let's go ahead and get into it. For the first time ever, some parents won't be able to afford buying gifts for their loved ones. It's a very sad realization that many of us are already starting to make, even though Christmas is still a month away. Hope is fading fast as the cost of food, housing, and utilities bears down on Americans who are living paycheck to paycheck. It's hard to imagine how these people will actually make it out of this economic downturn unscathed. The strength of the consumer is clearly weakening, and it shows with how US freight shipments are slowing down. Even worse is that there is now a high surplus of containers as demand continues to trickle down. Inflation is hurting the freight business and in turn will hurt the retailers and then ultimately crush consumers as expenses are passed on. The health of the retail industry is critical to the overall US economy. We can see that more consumers are becoming honest with themselves about the reality of their financial freedom and the state of their expenses. As our country continues to produce less goods than it buys, our economy is set to suffer. And if you've ever visited a local store or gone to the mall recently, you're sure to see the same sentiment across the faces of people who work there. Sales are slowing down. Commission checks are getting smaller. Our money is their income, and if sales don't pick up, who knows where their jobs will be in a few months. Being employed, though, will not necessarily mean that you are safe from the downturn. Real wages continue to decline. In fact, it has dropped 12 times in the last 14 months. This has prompted 61% of holiday shoppers to say that they're changing their holiday spending this year, while 39% have already tapped out and said that they can no longer afford to pay and go holiday shopping with this inflation going on. And of those 61% of shoppers, we have to ask which one of them plans to use credit cards for their holiday shopping, as credit card balances have gone up by the largest margin year over year in more than 2 decades. Now, the question isn't how much people can actually borrow, but about how much they'll be able to pay back on a consistent basis. The more of us that realize the reality of our situation, the worse it will also become for retailers. Walmart is now starting to close stores in different locations, marking the beginning of the end of the retail industry. It's not just slow demand that's eating into their profits. Organized crime is also to blame.
Well, the holiday shopping season is ramping up, and so is organized theft. Jeff Flock is at the outlets in Jackson, New Jersey this morning. Jeff, that mall was targeted by an organized shoplifting ring. What are they doing now to try and prevent more of this?
Well, what they're trying to do is continue to do what they did then, which is they got word of that, and then they brought the police in and staged a massive bust. That is what needs to take place more, retailers say, as this organized retail theft ramps up. Take a look at the pictures of some of the stuff that's being stolen on these rings. It's not real expensive stuff, Ashley. It's like, you know, everything from deodorant to toothpaste to pain relievers, that sort of thing. Stuff that's easy to steal, conceal, and get away with. You know, these rings, this isn't people that have a headache, can't afford the Tylenol, so they went and stole a bottle. These are people that are paid by these rings to come in and steal specific items that can be sold, resold on the internet. Organized retail crime, ORC, up 26% in 2021, and the suspicion is more this year. What does it cost the economy? Last time somebody did a study on it, $125 billion in lost economic activity, 650,000 jobs, and $15 billion in tax revenue to the economy. Who's getting hit? Well, you might guess drugstores, obviously a big one, some apparel retailers, food stores like Kroger, and then Target, which I think you reported last week on. You know, the CFO saying that they lost $400 million. I quote him now. I think what he said was, at Target year to date, incremental shortage, which is a fancy way of saying we got ripped off, has reduced gross margins by $40 million so far. We expect it'll reduce them by $600 million by the end of the year.
Target has said that they've lost around $400 million in profits due to an organized group of shoplifters who continue to steal merchandise from their stores. They're now expecting at least a loss of $600 million for the entire year. Target has also said, quote, "We know we're not alone across retail in seeing a trend that I think has gotten increasingly worse over the last 12 to 18 months. So we're taking the right actions in our stores to help curb that trend where we can. But that becomes an increasing headwind on our business, and we know the business of others," end quote. The industry is experiencing slow foot traffic in stores, cash flow issues, low demand, and supply chain problems that continue to hamper their profits. The standard of living for Americans continues to deteriorate. It is also very clear that the middle class is shrinking bit by bit each day. And data reveals that half of all American workers, they made less than $3,133 a month last year. This would have been fine if inflation wasn't this persistent, but sadly, this wage just barely puts you above the poverty level. While the government continues to push the idea that most Americans are doing well with these numbers, it is very clear that our economy has slowed to a pace that many of us are now forced to forego on any holiday celebrations. The Federal Reserve is expected to continue raising interest rates, and while we're still dealing with inflation as a whole, they thought that this was the perfect time to launch their digital dollar pilot program. It will span 12 weeks, and it will be used to test the feasibility of a digital money platform. They say that this will improve financial settlement and will involve central banks, regulated non-banks, and commercial banks. Much like the FTT coins or FTX, which are now basically worth noting, the US dollar will be represented as tokens. The dollar has not been backed by gold since 1971. And just like what happened with the FTT coins, those were created out of thin air, and they had value just because people said it did. These tokens will only have the value because the government will tell us so. You see the pattern? The danger of having this entire digital dollar hacked or suffer the same fate as FTX is not impossible. Now, it is troubling to think that they'll be able to track all of our money, whatever we buy, and it's not clear what limitations will be implemented. They could force us to buy something that we don't want. They can also tax us for every cent we make. This could very well be the reason why they intended that many IRS agents. That's right, guys. 87,000 new armed IRS agents have been hired. It also opens the possibility of financial censorship, especially if you disagree with what the government says. The term control takes on an entire new meaning with tokens that can easily be accessed by the government. One wrong move could have the government freeze your access to your money. It's not just money, but any financial assets that you may have. It's an extremely frightening thought, but one thought that must be shared to the public. The people deserve to know what the government is capable of doing if they proceed with programs like this digital dollar. Do you think that a unified effort will persuade them to not follow through with this? Or is it just simply too late for that now? Please do share your thoughts and ideas in the comment section below about this and everything that we talked about today. Now, before we go, make sure to smash the thumbs up button for the video. Also, if you're new to the channel and you want to keep updated with everything that matters to you regarding our economy and your money, make sure to subscribe to the channel, because if you want the truth, you guys know where to find it. I appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome. I will see you on the next one.